pretty much exactly how much everything cost. Start again, shit cunt. Alright, welcome to a fairly dull day in England. I mean, what other kind of day is there? But no, the weather's actually been alright recently, and that kind of brings me on to a quick topic that I'm going to cover before we get into the main part of this video, and that is this car, the R8. I've not actually driven it much, even though the weather has been pretty nice recently. Since I got it back from the diff being repaired, I've driven it once, and that was for the track day that you saw a video of not long ago. So yeah, that's kind of weird. Like, I don't really know why I've not driven it much. I just haven't fancied driving it. So yeah, it kind of got me thinking about like selling it, and I'm like, well, you know, if it's just sat there on my driveway, which it is because the 86 is in the garage always having stuff done on it, so there's no room in the garage for this. So this just sits on my driveway getting shit landing on it, and yeah, it just gets dirty and loses money. So I don't know, I'm kind of thinking about selling it, but it seems a shame to sell it because I know, like, come summer next year or whatever, I'll be like, I shouldn't have sold it. So I don't know what to do with that. I haven't like seriously decided anything yet, but yeah, just started thinking about it a bit. Maybe like some flat out acceleration will make me like it again. Jesus Christ, I forgot how fast this is. Okay, maybe I won't sell it. Anyway, let's get on to the main part of this video, which is something that a lot of people have asked for quite a while, and as you can tell from the title, it is how much money have I spent on various bits of the GT86 and the total cost. So we're going to go through like every individual modification, the cost of that, so like how much did the coilovers cost, how much was the clutch, all that sort of stuff, and then we're going to have a total at the end, obviously, which is going to be depressing because it's going to be a lot of money. And just before we actually get straight into the prices, just don't bother leaving a comment saying, like, once you see the total price, leaving a comment saying, oh, you should have bought a GTR, you should have bought this, you could have bought this car and spent this on it and you'd have this monster. I'm well aware that you can spend this money on other things, all right? But obviously I didn't want to. I wanted to buy a GT86, wanted to learn to modify it and spend the money on mods, and that's what I've done. And I'm happy with how it's turned out. So yeah, you don't need to waste your time leaving a comment saying you could have done this, you could have done that. I'm well aware of that. Alright, I've pulled over because there's quite a few things that I need to keep checking on my phone. I've made a list of how much everything cost. Went back through all my emails and receipts and stuff, and yeah, got most of the stuff. Some things I had to just try and remember how much they cost, which I've probably done a pretty bad job of, but for the most part they'll be fairly accurate. So let's start with the car itself. I can't remember the exact price, but it was between £16,000 and £17,000 when I bought it. I'm pretty sure of that. And that was 2 years ago, I think. I think I've had it about 2 years. And it had 8,000 miles on it, I think, or 12,000, 8 or 12,000, one of those two. Don't know why one of those two, but it was one of those two. So yeah, that was the car in completely stock form. It was 16, let's call it 17,000. Okay, let's say that because I'm probably remembering it being cheaper than it was. So 17,000. Oh, and also for American people, don't worry, I'll convert this all to dollars at the end, but I'm not going to convert every single one. All right, so let's start with the coilovers. They were one of the first things that we did. The KW V3 coilovers. And this is one of the ones that I haven't actually got like a receipt email for. Can't find that. So I think they were about £1,000, maybe a little bit more, but we'll say £1,000 for them. These are not in any particular order, by the way. Like, it's not in the order that we did them in or anything like that, or the order of price. So this is just random as I remembered each one, as I found emails for each one. The next thing is the StopTech big brake kit for the front. Now, obviously, you don't actually need this for drifting or anything like that. This was when I was still keeping it as kind of a track car and a road car. So yeah, that was £1,500-ish again, and that was for new calipers and pistons, obviously, new discs and new pads and new brake lines. So that was like a full kit, and that was actually a really good brake kit. That made a big difference to how the car felt when you were braking. Right, now we've got probably the most expensive thing that was like all in one go. It's lots of separate things. It was basically when I took it to Fensport to get the turbo done. So they did the turbo, which was the Stage 3 Evo turbo, intercooler, all the piping and everything, oil cooler, new clutch, which is a Helix Cerametallic clutch, I think it's called, the boost controller, the dump valve, the full exhaust from the turbo back, and then the mapping as well, and I'm sure there's something else, I can't remember, but yeah, they did a lot of stuff then, and that in total I think was about £6,000. So that was the most money I've spent on it all in one go. But it was also by far the biggest change and biggest improvement that we got all in one go. And I'd say to anyone who's like considering doing a turbo to them, definitely do it, or a supercharger, definitely do it. It makes the car so much better, and with like zero downsides as well. It's not like, oh, suddenly the chassis can't handle that much power or whatever. It's absolutely fine. So yeah, I wish they'd do like a turbo or supercharged version from the factory, but they don't. I was tempted to not include any like cosmetic stuff like wheels and paint job and stuff like that, but I may as well mention them anyway, and then people can see how much it cost. So the next thing was the OZ Racing wheels, which I'm going to be replacing very soon, but at the moment that's what's on it. They were, I want to say, again, not sure on this one, but I want to say about £1,000 for all four. Next thing is the Valenti rear lights. They were about £200. Not really much to say about them, apart from don't forget to put the foam gasket in. Don't take it off like I did, because then water gets everywhere. Next is the S-Wave rear camber control arms, or rear lower control arms, whatever you want to call them. They were £250. That just gives you camber adjustment on the rear. Now there's also been various like bushings and bushing insert kits and stuff that we've done. I can't remember all of them. I'm just going to say like 200 quid overall for bushings, maybe a little bit more, maybe 250 quid. There was one bushing kit that was really worth doing though, and it was pretty cheap. I made a note of it on this one. It's the White Line KDT922 bushing kit, and it's for the rear subframe mounting. And it's basically like an insert kit, so you don't have to actually press out any other bushings and press new bushings in. You just insert these bushings over the top. And that made a big difference to the throttle feel, which is kind of weird because it's just like the subframe mount at the back. But that stops like the diff and everything moving around when you get on and off the gas. And like, because as standard, when you press the throttle in the 86, there's like quite a delay and quite a lurch, especially when you get off the throttle. There's like this horrible sort of lurching backward and forward a couple of times. And that really helped to sort that out. So that was like 45 quid or something. Definitely the best like sort of cheap mod that I did to the car. And definitely, even if you're not planning on modifying your car much, just do that, because it helps a lot with the throttle feel. Right, next thing we've got is some new injectors and a new fuel pump. They're 540cc injectors and a 246 litre per hour fuel pump, which was recommended by Fensport when we wanted to increase the boost a bit more, and that was £400 for the fuel pump and the injectors. Next thing we've got is a lightweight flywheel, which, to be honest, if I was doing this all again, I don't think I'd bother with that. Didn't notice any difference to how it felt to drive, and it gave us quite a nasty sort of rattling sound whenever you're off the throttle. Like ever since we put that in. That did actually go away when we took the engine out and put a new clutch in, which was the exact same clutch, so it's not like that clutch was dodgy or whatever. It was the exact same make and model of clutch, and the old one hadn't worn down that badly that it would be making a rattling noise. So yeah, I don't know, maybe that was just something to do with the way that it was mated against the flywheel or something, but it seemed a bit weird. Right, now we've got the engine build, which was obviously quite expensive. The original quote that I got to get it all done, so like we'd literally just drop the car off, the place would buy the parts, take the engine out, install the parts, put the engine back in and map it and everything, it was like £8,000, and I thought that's just ridiculous. So I ended up buying all the parts myself, which was, I'll list off the parts: Carrillo conrods, Carrillo pistons, there was loads of gaskets and stuff from Toyota, and some Cosworth, I think it was, head gaskets, ARP bolts for the block, and what else was there? Valve springs, which were Kelford cams, I think it is. Can't remember the name. And an oil pump gear from Rimax, or Remax, however you pronounce that. Anyway, so I bought all the parts for about £3,000, and then we got Ricky at RE Performance to do the actual install and everything. We took the engine out, so that saved a lot of money on labour and stuff. Ricky did the actual engine build, and the grand total, I think, for everything, all once we were done, was about £4,500, something like that. Then we've got ARP carbon brake cooling ducts, which I only got because when I crashed the car, and that's one thing I should explain, I'm not including any of the cost for repairing the car, obviously. But yeah, when I crashed the car, it was going to be more expensive, I think, to buy new fog lights and indicators, or something. I can't remember. There was something else that I needed, and I thought these ARP cooling ducts looked cool anyway, so it was a similar sort of price. It was 200 quid, I think, for the carbon brake cooling ducts. They don't actually cool the brakes at all, like in the way that I've got them set up. And they don't fit very well at all, actually. That's another thing that I probably wouldn't do again. They're really bad fit. Then we've got an oil pressure gauge, which is the Blitz oil pressure gauge. That was £200 for the gauge, the wiring and the sensor. And then obviously we've got that bracket as well that holds all the gauges in place. I can't remember how much that was. I want to say about 100 quid. I can't remember. What have we got next? Oh, the CAS 1.5 way diff. That was £500. And there was a bit of controversy with that, because I ordered the Super Q version, it's called, which is like the kind of top of the range version. It makes less noise, it's smoother. But the one I received wasn't the Super Q version, but the place I bought it from said it was, and so I ended up speaking to Kaz USA, and they said it definitely isn't. And they contacted the place that's selling it and told them to change the advert, and they didn't, and yeah, it all got a bit messy. Then when we broke the Stage 3 turbo, which not really sure what caused that, but so the upgrade from that to the Stage 4 kit was about 1,500 quid. So that's for a new intercooler pipes, and the turbo itself. Now that was a bit cheaper than it would be normally because I got a turbo from Fensport that they'd already used once, basically. They'd used it in one race, and then they changed to a different turbo for some reason. So I just got that one, and it's worked fine, there's nothing wrong with it. But yeah, the Stage 4 kit doesn't give you much more of the Stage 3. Personally, I think I'd probably say to people, just if you've got a Stage 3, you don't bother upgrading to the Stage 4. They are bringing out a Stage 5, so maybe look into that. But yeah, the Stage 4 kit doesn't give you much more. Wheel spacers, about £100 for the two front ones, which are 20mm spacers. The respray, so the Stealth Grey respray, was about, it's hard to give an exact cost because they were repairing a couple of other bits at the same time, but about £2,500. And it's not like the absolute most perfect paint job you're ever going to see, but it's a lot better than the wrap was, and it didn't cost that much more than the wrap. Like the wrap was nearly £2,000, and the paint job was way better than the wrap was. So yeah, about £2,500 for that. Drive shaft shop axles, or drive shafts as we would call them, the two bits that come out of the diff and go to the wheels. They were, let's have a look, £900, and they're the ones that can handle up to 600 brake. They do another version that handles up to like 1,000, but the 600 one will be fine for me. Then recently we've got the front arches, which are not legit Rocket Bunny arches. They're very similar style, but they're not Rocket Bunny arches. They were from a guy called Nigel, who I spoke to on the GT86 forums, and he made them himself. They're his own design technically, because he's modified them a bit. And they were, I think, £300 for the two front ones and the two front bumper spat bits. So that was quite a decent price for them, to be honest, and they fit brilliantly. Then we've got the PBM angle kit, which PBM is Parts by Max, but I think the website's actually called Parts Shop Max or something like that. The angle kit was about £1,000, and yeah, obviously if you're into drifting, that's definitely worth doing. Like, it's made a big difference to drifting. One thing that's not on this list that I've just remembered is the Nameless Performance hydraulic handbrake. You know, the thing that doesn't work yet. That was about, I want to say about £200. But I'm thinking of that off the top of my head, so might be wrong. Then we've got the ground control camber plates, which we kind of installed as part of the PBM angle kit. They were about £300, which is a lot, I think, for something that just has a suspension top sliding in it. But yeah, you get what you pay for, I guess. They're a really nice quality product, and they did the job. They gave us enough camber. So then we've got the P3 Cars gauge, which is something that fits in the vent on the driver's side, and hooks into the OBD port and tells you like oil temperature, coolant temperature, boost pressure. You do need an adapter for the boost pressure bit, and that was £150. I can't remember how much the adapter was, probably not much. That I think was well worth it, because as standard there's no way to see oil temperature. You can only see coolant temperature, which is fairly useless unless it gets too hot. So you want to see oil temperature to see when it's up to temp. But yeah, so that was useful just for that. And then boost pressure, it was handy being able to see that in there. The only downside of it is that you've got to press the button to flick between the different things, so you can't see them all at once, obviously, because it's just a small screen. So that's why I've bought a boost gauge, which we haven't fitted. Boost gauge will have been similar price to the oil pressure gauge, so probably about £200 with the sensors and everything. And yeah, that'll go next to the oil pressure gauge, but not actually got that installed yet. Then we've got the Sieben carbon diffuser cover on the back, which was about £500, which is a lot of money for a cosmetic thing, but I just hated how the stock thing looked at the back. It's just real cheap and tacky. I don't like it. I don't know, I guess I wouldn't recommend it because it's so much money, but personally I was willing to pay that just to get rid of the horrible stock look. I thought if I'm going to this much time and effort making the rest of it look nice, that back bit really annoyed me. So yeah, wasted 500 quid on that. Right, I recently bought the 86 Nanny thing, it's called. It basically is a way of turning off all the ABS, traction control completely, because when you just hold the button it doesn't turn off completely, it just turns it off for the most part. So that's been really useful for drifting, and we've hooked that up to a little toggle switch on the dash, so you can just flick that. That was £90, I think, roughly, for the 86 Nanny thing. Also recently put some tow control arms on the rear, and they were £250. They were S-Wave tow control arms as well. I did buy the Driftworks tow control arms, but they didn't last long at all. Like, a month, and they were rattling, and there was a lot of play in the wheel, and yeah, it just wasn't good. So upgraded to the S-Wave ones, and they were a lot better, and they are like double the price. So again, you kind of get what you pay for. The rear brake discs and pads were probably about 200 quid, I'm going to say. I can't remember. To be honest, they didn't make much difference to anything in terms of brake performance, but yeah, we did them anyway. We upgraded them slightly. They're not like a full upgrade kit like the front was. That was like a big proper kit with calipers and everything. Yeah, this was just discs and pads. And then there's probably been lots of little bits I've forgotten, like we did like diff bushings and some other bushings, the transmission bush, and yeah, like various bushings and stuff, and other little bits that I've forgotten. So let's just add £1,000 on to cover little bits and bobs that I've forgotten. Now, I feel like there's probably something major that I've forgotten as well, but if you can remember in the comments, if you've seen us do or mention something in a video that I've completely not mentioned here, then yeah, mention it. But yeah, so that gives us a total of, I've got here, but I've forgotten a couple of things on this list. So I've got here about 42,000, which is a lot of money when you just think, could have spent that on someone else. But this has been over like 2 years, you know, like I bought the car for 17 grand and we spent probably 5 grand on it pretty quickly. But then after that, it's just been little bits over time. So it's not like I just had 40 grand and just spent it all in one go on an 86 and all the mods. So yeah, that's it. Hopefully that's been enlightening. And I can't wait to see all the judgmental comments telling me what I should have bought with that money instead. But yeah, look forward to that. If you've got any questions, let us know in the comments and I'll try and answer them all. But yeah, if there's one mod that I had to pick that like it was the best value, best bang for your buck, I think I already mentioned it, but it would be those white line insert bushings on the rear subframe. Just because it made the throttle response feel so much better. And if there's one mod that I had to pick regardless of cost, it'd be just turbocharging or supercharging the car. It makes the car so much more fun. Like it's just crying out for a little bit more power, that car. So once you do that, it's a great fun car. But yeah, I'm going to go drive this thing a bit more, see if I can enjoy it a bit and make me want to drive it a bit more. Although it's coming up to winter, so probably not the best time to get back into driving supercars, but we'll see. So yeah, I'll see you in the next video, whatever that ends up being. As usual, no idea. That could be like my catchphrase at the end of a video. As usual, no idea what the fuck we're doing with our channel. Standard. So yeah, whatever it is, I will see you there.